Round 16 of the EFL Championship is upon us with some big winning runs heading our way and some big games like the Sheffield Derby. Now, what are we going to see this weekend and who is going to be able to take advantage of this international break? Now, there's so many teams who are going to receive returns from injury. There's also going to be some teams that ultimately do not. Now, it is going to be interesting to see how this one goes. We're going to look through each of the fixtures. We're going to start off with Preston versus Blackburn. But if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. Let me know your score predictions down in the comments, but let's get to it. Now, starting off with Preston Blackburn, it's going to be really interesting to see how this one does go. Now, obviously, their top goal scorers are Smajic and Cantwell, both on 4 for the season. Obviously, Cantwell picking up an assist as well. It's going to be interesting to see how this one does shake out. Preston currently sitting in 4th, Blackburn sitting down there in 19th, but there is a big gap between Blackburn and the relegation zone, a whole 6 points. Now, if we look at the head-to-head of these two sides, Preston normally take the advantage. It's 9 wins out of, 19 games, with 5 draws and 5 wins in there. Now, if we go back to last season, Blackburn won 2-1 and a 0-0 draw. But before then, it was all Preston North End. Now, we are going to have to see how this one goes. Now, for me, I think it's going to be Preston North End who take the victory. I think Preston North End are going to win this one 1-0 as they face up against Blackburn Rovers. Now, the next game on the list is Bristol City versus Swansea. Now, both teams have been, a little bit up and down, if I'm completely honest. Now, obviously, for Swansea, they haven't won in 4 games. Bristol City haven't won in 3. And they took a huge defeat in there to Stoke City as well. Now, obviously, when we look at these two sides, it is very interesting to see where they both sit in the table. Bristol City had an incredible start, but obviously it's faltered a little bit over recent weeks. And Swansea City just aren't really there. Now, they're only 2 wins out of being in playoff contention, which we know can happen overnight in the Championship. And it is going to be interesting to see how this one does play out. Now, for me, I've got this one playing out as a 1-1 draw. If we look at the head-to-head, it's 7 wins Bristol, 6 Swansea and 5 draws. And in their most recent game back in February, it was Swansea City who took the victory, but obviously that was last season. Now, for me, I've got 1-1 for Bristol City and Swansea City. We head on now to Charlton versus Southampton, and who is going to take the victory in this one? It's a huge game. Nathan Jones up against his former team, and it's going to be a very, very interesting one because for me, I think Southampton, over the course of the last few games, have really turned it around. Now, they did play QPR and Sheffield Wednesday, obviously Sheffield Wednesday, in a little bit of turmoil, as we know. QPR, very much an up and down team, in my opinion. And when we look at Charlton Athletic, it's only 2 wins in their last 5, obviously lost their last game to Wrexham. And it will be interesting to see how it does go over the course of the next few weeks. Now, in terms of the league table, Charlton are sitting highest. They sit 9th in the division on 23 points. But Southampton, after back-to-back wins, find themselves in 18th. They were down in relegation trouble just a couple of games ago. Now, for me, I've got Southampton winning this one, and I think it's going to be a 2-0 victory. They've really turned things around since the sacking of Will Still. But will that continue heading into this weekend? You can let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Now, obviously, the next game we'll see Coventry City host West Bromwich Albion in what is a huge game in the EFL Championship, and it's huge more so for Coventry than it is for West Brom. Coventry City currently have a 5-point lead at the top of the Championship with just 13 goals conceded and 40 goals scored after just 15 games. Coventry City have been absolutely unbelievable and by far the best team in the division as of right now, but obviously that doesn't mean that their form can't slump. Now, West Brom have scored 14 goals, conceded 16 and have 21 points on the board. They've scored 26 less goals than Coventry City, which I think speaks volumes for how this game is going to go. Now, obviously, over the course of recent weeks, Coventry City lost their first game of the Championship campaign up against Wrexham. They lost 3-2, but then have gone on to win back-to-back games yet again, conceding just one goal in those games. West Brom won their most recent game 2-1 against Oxford United, but other than that, it's been very, very poor. 3 defeats, and a draw in there, and that is not what they would have wanted. Now, the head-to-head record for these sides does certainly go in West Brom's favour. 6 wins out of the 9 games, especially if we go back to April, it's Coventry City who took the 2-0 victory, and as we head into this one, on the 22nd of November, I've got none other than a Coventry City victory. I think it's going to be a 2-1 win for Coventry, but we will have to wait and see on that one. Now, Blues, they face up against Norwich City, and what is a huge game for Birmingham. Obviously, over the course of recent weeks, they've done really, really well. 3 wins and 2 defeats. Obviously, would have preferred those 2 defeats to be draws, maybe even wins themselves. But 2 back-to-back 4-0 wins against Millwall and Pompey put them in a really good place. And Norwich City have been absolutely terrible. Now, as of time of recording, Norwich City have just appointed a brand new manager. I believe his name is Philip Clement, from former Rangers manager. And they will be hoping for a new manager bounce as they look to bounce out of the relegation zone in the Championship. Just 9 points from 15 games. Liam Manning had a terrible start to the season at Norwich, and he'll be absolutely devastated with the job he has done. Now, Birmingham City, they sit 11th, 15 games played and 21 points on the board. Will they be able to challenge for the playoffs this season? It certainly is a possibility, and that possibility is going to get even bigger after they win 3-0 this weekend. That is my prediction for this one, and you can let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. Now, Derby County have been on a flyer. I am a Derby County fan. I'm not going to beat around the bush, but Derby County have been absolutely unbelievable. Since the return of Sondre Langas halfway through that game versus Norwich City, Derby County have gone from strength to strength. It's 5 wins in a row. It's only 3 goals conceded in the last 5 games. And what more can you expect from John Eustace's men? Now, that is going to be a big question. They've suffered a huge injury to David Ozo, which could potentially cause some huge issues for them over the course of the next few weeks. But it is one of those where they face up against a Watford side off the back of back-to-back draws. They did beat Middlesbrough and West Brom, but did obviously lose to Coventry a few weeks ago. If we look at the league table, Watford currently, if we get the all table up, sit in 15th place, just 3 points behind Derby. Derby County sit in 10th with 23 from 15. Derby County are hoping to be pushing for those playoff positions by the time we hit Christmas, and that is going to have to start with a victory this weekend, and it's going to have to come against Watford. Now, Derby County have gone through a run over the course of recent weeks of beating teams who they don't normally beat. And if you look at the head-to-head versus Watford, it's 7 wins for Watford, 1 draw, and 6 wins for Derby. Derby County's last win against Watford came in 2014, back when I think Derby County had just failed to get promoted heading into that one, and Derby County have failed to beat them since. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this one does shake out. I think, for me, Derby County have been breaking all sorts of records, and they've been absolutely phenomenal. For me, it's going to be a 1-0 win for Derby County, but you can let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. Ipswich Town host Wrexham. For me, this is a very interesting one, and one which they've obviously never faced each other as per FootMob, but it's an interesting one. Ipswich find themselves in 7th, 23 points from 7. Wrexham, 21 points from 15. And Wrexham and Ipswich both have very, very good sides and are both on fairly decent form. It's 2 draws, 2 wins and 1 defeat for Wrexham. 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat for Ipswich. For me, I think this is going to end a draw. I think it's going to be a 2-2. Now, Leicester City, they host Stoke City, and it's not been a great season for Leicester so far. Obviously won their previous game up against Norwich City, but before that it was 4 without win, 3 defeats in a row, a draw to Middlesbrough, whereas Stoke City, 3 wins and 2 defeats against Millwall and Coventry. I've sort of seen them sort of fall off a little bit in the Championship table, but ultimately they've not fallen off that much as they're sitting there on 27 points. Leicester City sit there on 21. They'll be hoping to find themselves in the playoff positions by the end of the season. But if we look at the record, it's 7 wins for Leicester. It is 4 draws and 2 wins for Stoke. Now, I personally have a feeling that Stoke City are going to come out on top of this one. I think it's going to be a 3-2 victory for Stoke City at Leicester City. Now, in terms of Oxford versus Middlesbrough, this is a very easy one. Yes, Middlesbrough have made a couple of changes to their management structure with Rob Edwards moving on to Wolverhampton Wanderers, but for me, I can't see past Middlesbrough. Very, very good side. Obviously, over the course of recent weeks, have faltered a little bit. 2 wins, 2 draws and a defeat. With Oxford, it's 2 back-to-back defeats with a draw, a win and another defeat in there. I just think that Middlesbrough are going to have the edge on this one. I think Middlesbrough are going to win this one 1-0. And that is going to be a theme over the course of the next game as well. Pompey versus Millwall. I think Millwall have been unreal this season. Currently sitting in the playoff positions, 25 points from 15. Pompey down there on 14 points from 15. It is going to be interesting to see how this one goes. In terms of head-to-head, Millwall seem to take the biscuit on this one with 6 wins out of 7 games. And if we look at the pre-match preview, we look at that form, it is absolutely horrific from Pompey, but you can let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments. But I think Millwall will take the 1-0 victory. We head on now to QPR versus Hull City. Hull City have been in very, very good form this season, and that is why they find themselves in a playoff position. There's a couple of teams in those playoff positions who last season were battling against relegation. Hull City, Preston and Stoke. You look down there at Derby, another team who were in that scrap at the bottom of the table, all 4 battling for those playoffs. And then you've got QPR down there on 19 points from 16. Now, in terms of head-to-head, Hull City take the biscuit. 9 wins from 20 games, I think that is. 6 wins for QPR, 5 for draws. And I personally, I think that Hull City are going to win this one 2-0. And then we head on to the big dog, the most important game of the weekend. It is the Sheffield Derby. Who is going to win it? That is anybody's guess. Is anybody going to win it? Is the biggest question. Now, Sheffield Wednesday have been allowed permission to sign a couple of players. Now, I don't necessarily agree with it. I think if you look back to Derby County's administration, they wasn't given that sort of leeway, and that's sort of where my basis stems from in that. Now, it's 3 defeats and 2 draws for Sheffield Wednesday. It's 3 defeats, a draw and a win for Sheffield United. But who is going to win this one? Both teams languishing down there in the relegation places. The heart of Sheffield is very much struggling this season. Now, if we look at the head-to-head records, it's 3 wins for Sheffield United, 4 draws in the middle and 1 win for Sheffield Wednesday, as per the records from FootMob. I personally believe this is going to end a draw. I think it's going to be Sheffield Wednesday 1, Sheffield United 1. Now, obviously, you can let me know your thoughts on all these predictions down in the comments. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.